What up, guys? Got a little curbside service today. Van right there, we got no cooling on this guy. Air feels cool. Maybe a little bit of frost on one of the U-bends there. Blower sounds like it's running. It was about 75 in there. Getting a little condensation out of it. This is not the best setup, as you can see. There's, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. It is what it is. The supply is going to be the worst. We're going out on low pressure or something. That was I just heard a compressor kick in. So I can already tell you we've got airflow issues. But this has not been a problem as far as I know. We've had problems out here in the past. Actually, the past few days we've been working on. I worked on one on the other side. So we'll let it get a supply temp. Something's kicking off in here. Let me get this undone and let's see what's inside. That might be our problem right there. If it's got a VFD. It sounded like it was running, but let's get that panel on. I bet this thing's not running. It doesn't sound like it should. And actually, it is. That's why I saw some frost on the U-bend. That blower is not running. And if I had to guess, I'd say we lost the VFD. I mean, that is typically what happens. Yeah, she ain't gonna work like that. And we got no power, no fault on our drive. This drive's gonna have no power. We've blown our fuses up there. So let's turn this guy off. Another one bites the dust. I don't like that they put them in here. Make sure you're cleaning them out. This one looks dirty. If you're going to do maintenance, blow these things out at least. But, I mean, you're getting that cold, moist air drawn across it all the time. Not the best spot for them, but they don't give you any other room over there. So, let's go ahead and get our other panels off. We'll look at our filters, but those fuses are going to be blown. We've got a bad drive, but we can make that work easy enough. I think there might be some ice inside. Low pressure switch was saving me. These compressors been flooding. There's ice on this one. At least some. This one looked like it shut itself off. Maybe for longer. Yeah. That's what's happened. The compressor's freezing. Like I said, I saw like one or two U-bends back there that had a little bit of frost on them. I'm surprised it's not froze up worse than it is. I mean, I guess a low pressure switch saves you from that, but let's see what these filters. I hate these tabs. These tabs are from the factory to hold that in shipping, not necessarily to hold your panel on. These panels will hold on just like every series since 1980 that Carrier made. As long as they clip pretty good. If you need a screw, you can put your screw in the corner. A little trick. Let's go check our drive out. Obviously we got power off. Let's just see which ones are blown, if not all of them. that top fuse is blown. It's actually, this has a tag. You gotta love how they wrap those so tight around that motor. The motor's cold too. I like cold air in there. Belt's tight. There's a tag on this that says a year or two ago that they had an intermittent issue. It doesn't say what the intermittent issue was, but they bypassed it for a little while. Came back and put new fuses in and it worked. It doesn't specify what the intermittent issue was, but I'm going to go ahead and suspect that drives bad. We'll ohm out the motor first and then be able to replace a fuse, and we'll be able to bypass the drive here. So I got my wire tie cut. We're actually bypassed still from whenever they tagged it. They must have got rid of their intermittent issue, because we can see that's my power feed in. This is my power feed out going to my blower. And that is my drive. So, I need to ohm out the motor. Maybe our intermittent issue was in the motor the whole time. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. Set on ohms. Great connection, but we were 1.4, halfway reasonable reading. 1.3. Okay. So my motor seems okay. What the resistance is supposed to be, but I mean 1.3, 1.4 still makes me think there's a motor issue. This is nothing to ground. This is an industrial park, so I mean this place has got power issues. I know that. So I guess it ohmed out okay. Now we turn it on and cross our fingers. I'll bet it runs, at least for a little while. Let's, I'm probably not gonna get it on film. I'm gonna get back here and look at the connections inside the motor, and then maybe see if I can, I don't know, maybe just protect those wires. They wrap them so tight, any vibration. I mean, they're not bad yet, but I just don't like those wires like that. They string their wires just like they string everything in here. Wrap it around the corners real tight, no protection at all. Just verifying my readings here to get a little bit more accurate, but I'm reading 1.3 on all three of my windings. That's 3.2. I just read the same for me a minute ago. Yeah. So the motor's okay, unless it's got something internally intermittent going on. When you see a tag that says intermittent problems, but it seems like once they bypassed the drive, it fixed those problems. It was, like I said, a year or two ago. So we're gonna flip it back on. I'm gonna get all this secured in here so we don't blow nothing up. So just checking my fuses again one more time. I put a new fuse in the top. 0.2. This is my bottom fuse. 0.2. This is my middle fuse. 20. So I'm gonna go ahead and change all the fuses. We'll leave the bottom one that's still reading okay just as a spare, but that different reading concerns me. So we'll get the middle one swapped out. Everything in here looks okay. Got some tubing on those wires, make sure we don't blow nothing up. And we got the amp draw, so we'll be able to tell. Watch it for a little while and see if the motor does anything weird. Let's verify that I've got 3-phase coming in. I obviously do because my compressors weren't screaming at me, but I know I got 209. Just wanted to make sure that it wasn't 460. So we're going to be looking at 9.2 amps for 208 volts, 4.6 for 480. So we got 9 amps. Everything sounds good in the motor. We got another 2-stage unit with a single stage stat, I'm guessing. So we pulled my Y wire. I want to make sure we're going the right direction. That arrow right there is going to show me. Y'all can see that. See if this thing don't blow sparks. Sounded good, looks good. Going the right rotation, so I'm good with that. Let's put our door back on, get in. 6 amps. That's well under my 9.2 rating. The filters were clean. Not sure what happened there. Like I said, this industrial park is known to have power issues. Filters are clean, I promise. So this guy's gonna be all right as long as it runs. That guy just kicked on. We got a whole bunch. There's a whole lot of old equipment out here. This is not that damn old. I don't know what the actual age on this one is. Just a couple years. It's like an 18. So I mean, it was time for the drive to go. It's like it was 21 or 22 when they bypassed it initially. And I'm not going to be able to answer why we blew a fuse unless I start seeing that amp draw creep up or something. .7, 6.7. It's a little lower on that one leg, but still shouldn't be blowing no fuses. Everything in here looks okay. They're off my lines. I'm not terribly concerned about any of that right now. I've got, like I said, my Y call pulled. It feels like we've probably lost crankcase heaters too. I'm gonna let it set off and run the blower for a little while. We'll monitor the amp draw and see if we can't figure out. They're not getting warm yet, but they're really cold. So I'm gonna let them sit for a little bit. We'll try to get an amp draw on them. Sometimes it's hard amps on these. They don't always read. Let's see if we're drawing anything. See if I'm reading anything. No. Now I have a feeling we've lost crankcase heaters too. That would be typical. Which we'll need to get those on and working. We'll recommend that, but at least have them some cooling for right now. So let's verify we are feeding voltage, which I'm sure we are. They wire to one side of the contactor, bottom and top. So when the contactor's open, you should have voltage. 205 volts. So I'm sending 205 volts to my crankcase heater. It should be getting hot. We'll pull them off of here and ohm them out to verify they're open. Do that with the power off. I'll start taking this off. It could be shorted. A lot of times they'll short on the inside. We can pull them off and you'll see the wire in there. So especially with all the water, that's a possible issue. And then we'll leave them disconnected. That way nothing shorts out or nothing weird happen, because it's always a possibility too, I guess. If I shorted one out, I don't know, this old building, I don't know what size breaker feeds this. It's non-fuse disconnect, and those are the only protection fuse wise. So I don't know, just theorizing. So I've got my wires disconnected here. Let's see if I can't get on that one. And we're open. The other one's gonna be the same way. But we'll ohm it out just to be safe, and then maybe pull one off, see if we can find the burn mark, but you'll see it on the inside. It's gonna be that wire on the inside, shorted out somewhere. Now, they're both reading open, and we go straight to them. There's no other connections. So, they are bad, but usually you can see, you'll see a black spot here on the wire. You see that wire in there. I don't see any real spot. Sometimes you'll get it back in here. I don't see any real spots on either of them, but they're clearly open, so they're bad. Usually you can see a telltale sign that it's shorted out, and it's usually on that wire wrapped inside. Funny enough, when you order them, at least with Train, I don't know what carrier's sending, but they actually send the new one. It's actually got a metal shield over the wire, so you can't see the wire like you can on the factory ones. And I'm guessing that's because it's better to have a shield on it, and they're probably charging you more money for it, and it's cheaper for them to put these on there. Just guessing. Again, it's all theory at this point, but this guy's gonna be all right. We'll leave him disconnected, got him marked, and turn this guy on, let it run for a little bit, like I said, and then we'll let the compressors run. Now, that's killer for these compressors. You saw all the condensation that was on them, especially with the crankcase heaters. I'm dumping all that cold liquid into my evaporator, and I can't evaporate it, so it's all coming back to my compressors. That's why you get that cold condensation. You're flooding your compressors at that point. So I'm gonna give them a bump, see what they sound like, and just get everything moving again a little bit. Sound good. So they sounded okay when I came up, but they were definitely flooding. That's airflow. It's a big problem everywhere. So we will plug my Y call back on here shortly. We got about 74 coming in on my return, and we'll see what kind of temp drop we got. Like I said, with just looking at the duct, there doesn't look like there's any turning vanes, so turning vanes would help you, but it's gonna be restricting some airflow, and I'm sure these are designed for that side discharge, but that 90 so close is just, it's not the best thing, but it's what we got, it's what we're dealing with. So we got our cooling back on, still 6.7 amps. There's 74 coming in. Let's see what kind of supply temp we got. I'm gonna expect more than 20 degrees, but it's actually dropping, which it wasn't doing before. That was a good indication. It sounded like it was running to me, but it wasn't. It was just a vibration from the compressors operating. I think other than that, this guy's gonna be all right. I'm gonna chalk it up to a power issue just in the area. Got a lot of old guys around here. I worked on one of these old Linux yesterday. Some restrictions. I didn't film it because I was in a rush trying to get them some answers. And there's 54, so we're at 20 degrees right now. It's going to keep dropping a little bit. But one stage seemed to be okay. Somebody had fixed a leak on the condenser coil and actually pulled the filter dryers out. This one's had some problems in the past, you can see, but they put a filter dryer outside, and then there was filter dryers on the cabinet on the inside. So we had double filter dryers. I didn't have a drop across either one. The coil had been patched. My liquid line was running, I was showing like 13 degree subcooling. The liquid line was right at my ambient temperature. So I wasn't quite sure what was going on with it. The superheat was maintaining. TXVs were doing their job. So I wasn't terribly concerned about it. I just noted everything. It was just weird. The pressures were similar to the first stage that was working, and I had, you know, like a 5-degree subcooling on the other stage with like an 80-degree line, and I was running like a 70-degree line on the one stage with, you know, about 70-degree ambient. 49, so 50, so we're running about 25 degrees. It's going to be about normal for this guy, I would suspect, just because of the duct the way it is. And we're still running 6.7, so I mean, I'm happy with all this. I'm not going to be able to explain the blown fuse, but I'm going to suspect power issue. We got an amp draw. I'm going to monitor for a little bit. We're definitely going to write on our tag what we found and what we did. I left my other fuse in there. They're going to need crankcase heaters. They're not going to change the drive. They've obviously been notified about it in the past and nothing's been done with it. So as long as this thing's working, they ain't going to pay for a drive that doesn't do a whole lot of good. This is just an office space. Hell, it's running 2 stages jumped out anyways. We're going to recommend that stat be put a 2-stage stat on too. So that's going to do it on this one. Easy call. Leave trade bearing you found it. See y'all next time.